Coming up on UCF Nightly News, a strong storm passed through campus earlier this week, causing major floods and road closures. We'll tell you why flooding was such an issue.
SGA Senate elections start next week, and students are taking their first steps towards becoming elected. But how many of those students are women? We find out how women are viewed in student government.
You may have noticed more cars at the gas station recently. That's because gas prices are on the decline. Nightly News looks into why gas prices continue to fall and how long experts say this will continue.
And later on, we'll have an update on what the weather is looking like for the week.
Nightly News starts now. Good afternoon and welcome to Nightly News. I'm Brooke Savage.
And I'm Matthew Johnson. Today is Friday, September 18th, 2015. If it's not raining where you are right now, it's probably on its way. Storms blew through campus the entire week, but reporter Mariah Nava tells you why one day was particularly bad. She has some tips for future storms.
If you were around campus on Tuesday, you know driving was pretty scary with all the rain. This is what Jacob Solomon saw while he was driving down McCulloch Road.
Cars stopped side by side next to each other. There was flooding on one side. Cars were driving on the sidewalk and people were fighting to drive through the middle of the road, and it was just chaos.
On campus, there were also problems near the arena and Colbourn Hall. The flooding on Libra Drive was so bad it was closed for a few hours and traffic had to be redirected. UCF PD says Libra Drive, the arena, and Colbourn Hall were trouble spots because the drains couldn't handle how much water there was. They say now there are pipes in place to help Libra Drive and all of the drains are clear. You know, September is known as the rainiest month of the year. Because of that, UCF PD gave us a few tips just in case another student gets caught in the storm. The first tip, look at your campus alerts. That'll let you know if a class gets canceled, if a road's closed, or if the entire campus is shut down. You definitely want to know that. The second tip, wait it out. Don't drive through a flooded area if you don't have to. Try to take an alternative route to school, or don't drive through the heavy rain. Third tip, if you absolutely have to drive through the flooded road, drive as slowly as you can. If it looks like the water is getting too high on your car, then pull over. You don't want to wreck your engine. Overall, just be safe out there nights.
And right now we have Audrey Harvey with our first forecast.
Audrey, how's our weather looking for today and the weekend?
This weekend it will be partly cloudy with a high chance of scattered storms. The current conditions for today are a high of 85 degrees and a low of 73. As you can see, we will have some scattered storms later on through the night, so if you're planning on going outdoors, make sure you have rain boots and an umbrella. To find out what the weather conditions will be like for tomorrow's home game, make sure to stay tuned for our 5-day forecast coming up later on in the show. Back to you, Brooke.
Thanks, Audrey. The official list of approved candidates for senator is out, but does that mean anyone is going to show up to vote? Last year, the Election Commission reported that only 4% of the student body voted. The low turnout of student voters sparked the commission to rebrand the election. The supervisor of election, Nicholas Bajema, said students should vote to honor their legacy as a UCF student.
Really, we wanted to look at what Kate and Jarrell had brought and, honor your legacy and, what it means to be a knight. And we wanted to really kind of bring it together and say, do your deed and vote.
Bajema also mentioned that the SGA Election Commission will be passing out ice cream and other promotional items to draw students in to vote. The SGA election will be held September 28th through the 30th. Out of the candidates running for Senate, half of them are women, but it hasn't always been this way. Nightly News looks into how women are treated in politics when it comes to our own student government.
Melissa Westbrook is a graduate student trying to get her master's in public administration and nonprofit management. Some students might remember her as being the second female president in the Student Government Association. She was elected in 2013, and at the time, she felt like women weren't encouraged to take on leadership roles.
I feel like women are stereotyped to be quiet and not speak up their opinions, but as soon as I got into office, I put those rumors to rest because I'm very outspoken, and I feel like I'm a very real individual.
Now, when SGA senators take their seats for a meeting, half those seats are filled with women. This is not the case in the U.S. government. Women make up 20% of the Senate, and it's almost the same in the House of Representatives. Dr. Stacey Mallory is a professor in women's studies and also oversees a leadership program for women called Inspire. She says women in politics are treated differently than men.
A lot of times reporters will comment on how a woman is dressed or perhaps her hairstyle or makeup or something like that. And sometimes those things can take away from the real issues that are at hand that the women are trying to portray.
Some students in SGA say it's the opposite. At UCF, women are encouraged to run for leadership roles, sometimes through conferences such as Elect Her. Westbrook says this conference gave her the confidence to run for president. She says even though she doesn't plan to run for office again, the leadership skills she learned will help her for a career she wants in the United Nations.
Each Scholars Academy offers the Inspire program, which teaches female student leadership skills and how they can make a difference in the community.
Delta State University continues to mourn the loss of one of its own. In Cleveland, Mississippi, a funeral will be held this Saturday for Ethan Schmidt, the history professor from Delta State University. All this after suspect Shannon Lamb, another professor from the university, brought a gun on campus and shot Schmidt to death Monday morning. Delta State police officials say classes were canceled on Tuesday but have been back in session since Wednesday. The current policy here at UCF is that concealed weapons are not allowed to be carried on campus. Reporter Nazanin Valdez tells us more about what's happening at UCF after the Delta State incident.
Senior Austin Wallace's hobby is more explosive than most. Wallace is president of the gun club at UCF. The club wants the right to carry guns on campus for protection.
It is a person's responsibility to protect themselves. Nobody else really takes on that responsibility.
Mississippi, where the Delta State shooting took place, is one of the 7 states that allow carrying concealed weapons. However, Delta State police officials told Nightly News the university has a zero-tolerance gun policy. UCF spokesperson Courtney Gill-Martin says UCF takes many safety precautions, but she says one of the best ways to minimize harm is for people to speak up to the police.
And so we have a student of concern process at UCF, and what we are asking students and faculty and staff members to do is to let the university know if they see some of those warning signs and let us take control of the situation and handle it in order to prevent something like a mass shooting.
However, for Wallace, this is still a concern. He says police are the only ones with guns that can legally protect others, but they can't always be there on time.
Every now and then they can prevent a crime, but you can only rely on yourself and those in your community.
Wallace says he's joining the Students for Concealed Carry group who are currently spreading awareness on social media for Senate Bill 68, a bill in favor of carrying guns on campus. As for UCF, police officials say they will continue to follow the current law. In Orlando, Nazanin Valdez, UCF Nightly News.
Policies that UCF has, visit the UCF Police Department website at www.police.ucf.edu.
AAA has reported that gas has hit its lowest price within the past decade, and gas stations are getting more traffic from these low prices. You may have noticed gas prices have dropped recently. AAA reported that the average price of gas in Orlando area is $2.11. Now, one student says how he benefits from these low prices, and a AAA spokesman tells us why gas prices are so low.
I have to drive a long ways to work 3 times a week and to go see my girlfriend up in Tallahassee, once or twice a month.
Gas prices are so low because oil prices are especially low, and the reason being is because there's an oversupply in oil right now. There's actually a glut in oil right now, and that's helping to push the price of oil lower. It's about $45 a barrel, which is about the same price as what we saw in January when gas prices were at their lowest point in the year.
Due to the low cost, and experts say they expect gas prices to remain even lower for the rest of the year.
UCF can expect to see some familiar faces next year. The federal government launched a website that shows the university keeps a large number of its freshmen. College Scorecard shows 87% of UCF freshmen come back after their first year. This is higher than the national average of 67%. Stephen O'Connell, director of UCF's first year advising, says his office's personalized approach helps freshmen feel more comfortable coming back their second year.
Some of the things we do is our approach to academic advising. We use an appreciative advising model in which we value the students' discussions with us. We want to build a sense of trust with the student.
UCF's score did fall short of UF, Florida State, and USF, but did outrank FIU, Northern Florida, and FAU.
Hearts were pumping earlier this week at the Greater Orlando Heart Walk. We'll tell you why this event holds a special place in the heart of a couple of participants.
Healthy food like this plate of chicken is one of the many options of unhealthy food offered around campus. Nightly News looks into how these greasy foods affect student health. Over 20,000 people came out to Memory Mall this past weekend to raise money to fight heart disease during the Heart Walk. For many who participated, the topic of heart disease hits close to home. We talked to a few people who shared their personal stories with us.
Today I decided to walk in this worthy cause because both my parents, my dad actually died in 2001 of a heart attack, massive heart attack, and my mom actually suffered of a stroke. So genetically, I think it just runs in our family. So I think donating and raising money for this worthy cause is so great.
One day I woke up having a hard time breathing. That night went to the hospital. Told me my lungs were almost full with water. They said I have congestive heart failure. I had the heart of like a 70-year-old person. I'm 41. I was 40 at the time, and was like, I got to change my life. I have one son, 3 daughters that mean the world to me, and I want to be there to walk my kids down the aisle and see my grandchildren. So I had to make some life changes.
The Heart Walk has raised over $1 million, and for a good reason. Coronary disease is the #1 killer in the state of Florida, responsible for more than 1 in 4 deaths. Nightly News looked into if students are staying healthy and how options available to them may affect them. Recent graduate Devin Isabel made moves to improve his life after he gained 15 pounds as an already obese freshman.
You walk in there and you see things such as pizza and hamburgers and you're like, oh, it looks really good. But when you go to Publix and buy things that are fresh, you know, chicken and salad, it makes you feel a lot better about what you're eating.
Isabel was part of the 29% of all college students who are overweight or obese. The Mayo Clinic says obesity, an unhealthy diet, and a lack of exercise are some of the leading causes for heart disease. But expert nutritionist Dr. Rovito says students don't have to push themselves to keep healthy.
You could have small little increments of being active and walking and doing and being and just having a normal lifestyle that's somewhat active, not really active, and you can still be generally healthy. I'm not saying don't exercise, but it doesn't have to be like P90X.
Dr. Rovito says even 2 hours of walking a couple of days a week goes a long way in fighting heart disease. He also says whenever a person decides to get in shape is a personal line they have to cross. Luckily for Isabel, he crossed his line after his freshman year.
After my freshman year, I was like, well, it's time for me to probably start caring more about what I eat and how I go about doing things. And so in about a year and a half, I lost 50 to 60 pounds, and now I feel great and have a lot of energy.
And if you need a jump start to get on your feet, there's another Heart Walk coming up on the 26th of this month.
Mechanical engineering students are repairing the Pegasus that was damaged last game day. The students are working in the engineering machine shop to rebuild the support arm. They say this is a great way to apply what they learned in class to something physical.
It's also a learning experience for us because we are able to get some hands-on experience that we don't necessarily get in all of our academic courses.
The students hope that the Pegasus will be repaired in time to be back on display for tomorrow's game. In weather, Audrey Harvey is going to tell us what to expect for our game day forecast.
Plus, after a tough loss to FSU last week, the women's soccer team is back in action tonight. Lindsay Gerzina tells us the team's mindset heading into the game and what to expect.
Matt, it has been a rainy week here in Central Florida.
It really has, Brooke. Audrey, can we expect more of the same for the rest of the week?
Definitely
Let's take a look at our hourly forecast for tomorrow's home game when the Knights take on Furman. Looking at 12 p.m. when tailgaters start flocking out to Memory Mall, we're looking at a high of 84 degrees with a 24% chance of precipitation. Moving on to 2 p.m., we have a high of 85 with a 24% chance of precipitation. And the bad news is for those attending the game is that thunderstorms are projected to hit at 3 p.m. going on until 6 p.m. when the game is going to start. So we're looking at a 52% chance of rain at 3 and on throughout 6 p.m. Now let's move on to our state temperature map. We're looking at high temperatures throughout the state of Florida. Down in Miami, we're at 89 degrees, Orlando 88 degrees, Jacksonville 87, on to Tallahassee 89, and in Tampa 86. Now let's move on to our precipitation map. We're looking at relatively consistent percentages throughout the state of Florida. On the East Coast, we have 40% down in Jacksonville, Orlando, and Miami. And then on the West Coast, we're looking at a 20% chance of rain in Tallahassee and Tampa. Now let's move on to our 5-day forecast for the week. Let's take a look here. Saturday, we're at a high of 88 degrees with a low of 74. Moving on to Sunday, a high of 92 degrees with a low of 73. Moving on to Monday, a high of 89 with a low of 73. The low temperatures will remain consistent throughout the rest of the week. Moving on to Tuesday with a high of 88. And then again on Wednesday when thunderstorms will be going to hit again. So if you're planning on going outdoors early on throughout the week, Monday and Tuesday is your best chance to do it. Back to you, Matt and Brooke.
Thank you, Audrey. The football team looks to bounce back after a couple of tough losses. In sports, Lindsay Grzina updates us on injuries and what effect that could have on the team.
Plus, balloons were falling yesterday inside the student union, and it has nothing to do with someone's birthday. We'll tell you what all the commotion was about.
What's up, Knight fans? I'm Lindsay Grzina here with your sports update. The Knights have had some pretty hard losses recently, but let's see what's been going on in the sports world and find out what the teams are doing to prepare for their upcoming games. UCF football is suffering from a lot of injuries this week, and underclassmen are forced to step up. Junior quarterback Justin Holman is said to be out for 2 to 4 weeks with a hand injury. Coach George O'Leary said true freshman Bo Schneider is set to start against Furman. Quarterbacks coach Danny Barrett said no matter who is playing quarterback, they're expected to do a good job.
And regardless of who's at the quarterback position because of injury or what, we're expected to get the job done. So like I told them after the game, it was meaningful for both guys to get out there. Now they have to come back this week prepared to play and to play better.
Another major player, senior center Joey Grant, is out for the season with a shoulder injury. Coach George O'Leary said he wants Grant to just focus on school now.
They're always part of the team, but you can't do anything. You can't do anything. I'm not a big believer in keeping kids around and all that. I think when I'm interested in the ones who can play and then make sure the ones who can't, making sure they're getting their academics done, they're doing the right things with their lives.
You can watch the Knights take on Furman this Saturday at 6 p.m. in the Bright House Network Stadium. Women's volleyball is in Miami now and played Seattle University and FIU yesterday. The Knights lost to Seattle 3-1 and swept FIU 3 sets. The girls are set to play their last match in Miami against UM tonight at 7 p.m. Women's soccer is back on campus tonight after being on the road the past week. With a hard loss against FSU, Coach Sahedek says it was a great learning experience for the team.
We're not hurt by that at all because I think we use it as opportunity to grow. And so I think we learned a lot about ourselves. I think they stretched us, and now we know more areas where we need to improve.
Carol Rodriguez, a forward for the Knights, spoke about some of the improvements the team has been making to prepare for the next match.
We have been working on crosses and clearances. We have been working on our position and stuff that we didn't do very well in the last couple of matches.
You can catch both the women's and the men's soccer team in action tonight. The women take on Georgetown at 5:30 and the men take on GCU at 8 o'clock. And it's that time again in sports. Let's talk about Knights in the NFL going into their second week of the regular season. Latavius Murray, a running back for the Raiders, rushed for 44 yards and averaged 4 yards per carry last week. The Raiders play the Ravens in Oakland this Sunday at 4 p.m. Next up is rookie Clayton Gathers, a strong safety for the Colts. In his NFL debut against the Bills, Gathers totaled 2 tackles and a pass deflection. The Colts play the Jets on Monday at 8:30 p.m. in Indianapolis. And finally, Matt Prater, the kicker, is in his 9th season and plays for the Detroit Lions. Last week against the Chargers, he was 4 for 4 in extra points. The Lions take on the Vikings Sunday at 1 p.m. in Minneapolis. That's all the time we have for sports. Hope to see you Knights fans at the football game this Saturday. Brooke, Matt, back to you.
If you plan on participating in Nighthon in the spring, get ready to step up your game.
Nighthon announced its fundraising goal on Wednesday, and it's $300,000 more than last year. The largest run student organization, Nighthon, did its big reveal in the Student Union. The students dropped balloons and revealed the grand total at exactly 12 p.m. The fundraising goal is $820,000, surpassing the $500,000 goal from last year. And that's our time. For now. Thank you for joining us.
Remember, you can always keep up with us during the week on our website, nightlynews.ucf.edu. And if you've got a story idea you want to let us know about, send it our way. You can reach us at nightnews@ucf.edu. Thanks for watching and have a good day.